Hello and welcome to Missed Checkpoints, the Video Game Book Club podcast. Today we're starting a discussion on Carrion, the first game of March. I'm your host Marcus, and joining me today as always are the homies. First off we have Dante.
Yo.
Next we have Greg.
What's up?
And last but not least we got the homie Trevor.
What's going on?
That's it. So this is the first of Greg's game for the month of March, so I'm going to kick it to him so he can introduce the game.
All right, so why did I pick Carrion? I was just searching for short indie games that were fairly new and had pretty decent reviews and came across this. I like the art style, and it looked weird enough that it piqued my interest, so I figured I'd give it a shot. Carrion could be described as a mixture of several genres. It has horror, metroidvania, and stealth elements. I've even seen it tagged as a reverse horror game. Players take control of a tentacled monster and go through environments, stalking and killing humans it comes across. As you progress through the game, you unlock various upgrades like growing bigger in size, extra attacks, and abilities which help you access areas you previously couldn't get to. As for the studio who developed Carrion, it's Phobia Game Studios, and there's not much info about them. They're based out of Warsaw, Poland, and according to one of the developers, work started on Carrion as early as October 2017. It was first publicly shown at GDC in 2018, and an official trailer debuted on June 9th, 2019 during Devolver Digital's press conference. This is the first title Phobia Game Studio worked on, and Carrion had a demo released October 2019, and the game was finally released on Windows, Linux, Mac OS, Switch, and Xbox One on July 23rd, 2020. Carrion has been fairly well received, sitting at around 76 on Metacritic, and has sold around 435,000 copies according to Steam Spy. There was a PS4 version of the game that was reported to be worked on, but it has yet to be released. And that's about all I had for it.
And so how did you said you picked it because you thought the art style looked cool and it was a short game, but how did you hear about it? Did you say that?
I was just kind of Googling like indie game, like short indie games that were like pretty recent, just kind of looking around.
Gotcha. What did you end up playing it on?
PC.
PC. Okay. And you said this was a Devolver Digital game? Or
yeah,
like
they published it.
Man, they're the goats. Like I feel like we've covered like a dozen of their games at this point. Yeah. Really not that many, but like we've definitely covered a fair share of Devolver games. They're very prolific in what they do. What did you guys end up playing it on? I'm assuming also this is everybody's first time playing it since it's such a relatively new game. But you can let me know if otherwise. But what did you end up playing it on, Dante?
I played it on Xbox via Game Pass.
Gotcha. And then what about you, Trevor?
Same here, Game Pass. I played it on my PC actually. But this game had been on I had downloaded this game like long before we had selected it.
Oh, so it was on your radar.
Or actually I don't know, maybe I can't remember how long ago we did the last list, but I had downloaded it because I just wanted to play it. I heard a lot about it. Mm-hmm. And then it was free on Game Pass, so I was just like, yeah, let me go ahead and download this and, play it in my downtime from work.
You said you played it on PC too, Greg. Did you do Game Pass or?
Yeah, I played it through Game Pass.
Okay, so I played on PC as well, but I played it via Steam, and I'm willing to bet that I was the only one that had the DLC then.
I was about to drop the bread, but then I saw Trevor saying it was on Game Pass, so it just worked out.
I think I actually, I can't remember if I bought it and then refunded it, or I
on Steam?
Yeah.
Oh, after it came out on Game Pass?
I'm pretty sure I did refund it because Trevor pointed out that it was on Game Pass pretty early on.
Gotcha. Well, I don't have Game Pass, so I played it on Steam, and I got the DLC with it, so I played that so I can tell you guys about it, try to sell you on it. But yeah, so I'll let you kind of talk about it then, Greg, since it's your game. If you want to kind of explain like what you do and the reverse horror aspect of it.
I guess the way this kind of differs from like I guess a typical horror game is like in this one you actually play as the monster. So it gives you like a little bit of a different aspect, because normally you're trying to run from whatever it is, but this you're actually chasing down everybody. So it's like a little bit of a different dynamic, which is kind of cool, to be honest. I'm trying to think of any other games where you like, kind of like this, where you would play as the monster, I guess, right?
Braid.
Okay, well, does that count? I guess.
I just wanted to shout out Braid.
He was quicker than I was. I was trying to think of a game where it's like, oh no, but
I mean, I think normally, because I actually had that as a question, like, can you guys think of a time when you played a game like this? And I think normally in video games, it's a sequence, and that's it. Yeah. So, like, when we played Spec Ops: The Line, and we did, like, the white phosphorus section, or I feel like there was, obviously the No Russian, or what is the one in Call of Duty?
No Russian was Modern Warfare 2.
Yeah. And, where, like, you have, like, a sequence where you're, like, the monster, or, like, the big bad, or whatever.
Well, what about Rampage?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
And then, because I was thinking, too, any kind of, I feel like Alien, not Isolation, I feel like there was an Alien vs. Predator game, and, like, there's that other game, there's two games, there's the one where you're playing, like, Jason or something, like, you're at the camp, and you get to play as Jason, and you're killing the teenagers.
Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that like a multiplayer game?
Yeah, like, I think it's mostly multiplayer games. Same thing with Left 4 Dead, where, it's like...
What was that
I was gonna say,
game that was, like, launched for the Xbox? It wasn't launched, but it's very close to it. That failed pretty bad.
Evolved?
That's the other one. That was the other one I couldn't think of. That was the other one I couldn't think of. Yeah. So, like, it usually, when you do these kind of things, it's in a multiplayer context. So I do think that it was kind of cool to experience it in a, like, this way. Because normally, like I said, it's normally in a multiplayer thing. So
I feel like it was balanced pretty well, right? You don't feel overly powerful for the most part, right? Like, it's not
really.
Like, I mean, well, okay. There are some times where, like, but I don't know. Like, I feel like at certain parts, you definitely feel like, I guess I don't want to, like, go too far ahead, but there's parts where I feel like, they can definitely fight you back. But for the most part, I guess there's not very many challenges, right?
Yeah. I feel like that's, like, the main part of the game. It's just, like, running through, dude. And so I guess we can start with the beginning with, like, kind of like the story, and, like, they're really, if I'm not mistaken, like the game starts with you as the creature, and, like, I guess the best way to describe the creature is it's like a blob. It's like a big mass of, like, writhing, like, tentacles, and maybe there's some eyeballs and a mouth.
Yeah.
And so you're in, like, a I don't even know what you call it, like a vat or something like that, and you break out, and then everybody starts freaking out, and you kind of get the tutorial from there. And I think, like, at that time, the only thing that you learn is, like, you can use the joystick. I'm assuming everybody played with the gamepad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I think this was one of those games where it's like you could probably, like, point and click with with the mouse and everything, but, like, that doesn't seem like it would be fun. Like, you just basically aim some type of target with the right thumbstick, and then you can I guess for me it was right trigger to, like, throw out a tentacle to kind of grab, and you can pull things to you. And so, like, you're at that point you can grab onto vats and doors or not vats, but grates and doors in order to, like, break free and, like, to further progress. And then you can grab onto there's a lot of scientists that are, like, kind of reacting negatively and trying to run away because they're, like, super frightened, and you can eat them to, like, not level up, to gain health. And I guess, like, it kind of just throws you in at that point, and then it's just kind of like you got to escape this facility. And what were you about to say?
Well, I was gonna say you kind of do level up in some way when you eat them.
Well, yeah, not in the beginning.
Yeah, like, not in the level or traditional level up aspect, but
more like Mario, like when you eat a mushroom or something.
That's pretty poignant, right?
And the game, did you mentioned kind of like Metroid, and I'm assuming that was the big pull for you, Trevor. That was the thing that caught your interest immediately when you heard about this game.
Wait, so again, it was which aspect?
The fact that it was kind of like set up like a Metroid. Like,
yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Even the look of it. I mean, the art style. You know, of course, it's like a 2D platformer type game, or not necessarily platformer, but you know, it has that 2D kind of pixel art, but it's not necessarily. I don't know. I don't know what you would call it because it is pixel art.
Yeah, it's 16-bit.
Yeah, but yeah, that definitely evokes Metroid, the Metroid style.
And did you? I meant to ask you, but did any of you guys like? I know it's in the same genre or whatever, so like obviously there's going to be a through line. But did any of you guys play Shadow Complex for the?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, because when I was playing this, I kept thinking like I don't have as much. I enjoyed it when I played it, but I don't like have as much memory for Metroid. I've only played just the Super Metroid. So I have a lot more reverence for games that were, you know, like Metroidvanias, I guess you could call them. Not to say that I think Super Metroid is a really, really good game, but I just never really got into the series. But I kept thinking of
chicken wings over it the other day.
You say what?
Chose some chicken wings over it the other day.
I'll choose chicken wings over a lot of video games. But yeah, I kept thinking of Shadow Complex, and one of the things that immediately struck me one of the few things I didn't like about this game was the lack of a map.
I didn't really find it to be. I mean, I can see where you're coming from on it, but
I couldn't see where I was going.
Well, I felt like the level design was like pretty well thought. Like they kind of gate you out of certain areas that you don't need to go back to. So it's like I feel like it's kind of.
But
you can get lost, but
the problem is that because it's set up like a Metroidvania, I immediately thought I need to backtrack and like that. So like I was like, oh, I got new abilities. Let me go back to the starting area. And oftentimes there was no reason for me to go there, but it was also sometimes very difficult to get back to that spot because it was just like I had to have the entire map in my head. Layout.
I can see that because looking back at it, the game does a really good job of pushing you forward to the point where a lot of times you don't necessarily need to go back. Mm-hmm. And then I think the lack of a map doesn't really because they do that as far as progression. The lack of a map doesn't become apparent until you get towards the latter half of the game, and it's just like, yeah, I do have all these abilities. Let me backtrack and see what I can pick up. Which there are a few collectibles.
And I think that's the thing is like I'm willing to bet that me and Trevor, Greg and Dante, did you guys do the little collectible containment units?
If I came across them, I would do it, but like I wasn't like actively looking for them. I didn't really realize it was a thing until like maybe 75% through the game.
Mm-hmm. And did you, Dante?
I got about half of them.
And did you get them in the middle of your playthrough, or did you end up going back to get them?
Well, I got them when I got lost and really frustrated with this.
Gotcha. Okay, so I didn't even know they were a thing until like halfway through the game when I found a level. I stumbled across it, and I was like, oh, okay, there's 9 of these things, and I tried to find them during my playthrough. I think maybe I had 2 or 3 by the time I finished. And after I beat the game, I was like, I think Trevor kind of spurred me on because I saw him post that he 100% of the game and did everything. So I was like, well, let me go ahead and do this too. And trying to go back to these levels, like one of the things is I didn't even realize that I ended up having to look up a map there like online, and I didn't realize how big the overworld was, and it was for the most part a lot of the levels were like one way in, one way out as far as getting to them. And so, like, me going back, because I think I beat this game over the span of 2 days, which is, I mean, it's a relatively short game. I think it took me about 4 hours to beat. but like I just had no memory of like how to access stuff like the first couple of levels when I was at the back half of the game.
Man,
And-
you need to check your Steam time because I feel like there's no way
What?
the 4-hour thing.
I'm pretty sure I beat it in 4 hours.
It had to be like maybe 4.5, maybe 5 for me, something like that. I'd say 6 tops, but
I think it took me about 6.
Really?
I'm pretty sure it took me about 4 hours because I played it in one sitting, and I started it at 6 or 6:30, and I remember finishing it like I took like maybe an hour break or so, and I finished it around 11.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, it didn't take me that long, honestly. But I mean, I'll check my Steam time after.
Granted, I did get lost for about 90 minutes during my playthrough.
Yeah, like I didn't get lost. Like I always knew like where I had to go to get to the next level. And like I said, for me, like the map didn't really come into like play for me, like wishing I had one until I was trying to do the collectible stuff. So if I had not done it, I probably wouldn't have ran into it as an issue in the same way. But yeah, I don't know. Like I think because it was set up and just made me think it was like I don't want to say a true Metroidvania, but like thinking that if I would have backtracked, I would have unlocked new abilities and everything. Then like when I did backtrack, I was just like, I don't even know how to get to level 1 or level 2. And especially I think after you beat the game or when you're at the end of the game, there's like a level that tells you all your stats.
yeah.
And like when I saw that, I was like, how do I even get like trying to get back to some of those levels? I was just like, I just don't know how to do it. So I really wish there was some type of map. But like that was like my main gripe / complaint with this game. Other than that, like I don't really like have a whole lot of bad like things to say about this game personally. I'm guessing you wish there was. I mean, do you guys all think there should have been a map, or do you think it doesn't really matter? Like, I do agree with Trevor that they do a really good job of like progressing you forward, but I just think that because of the genre of game that it is, that you're so used to having to backtrack that like we just do it.
In like the way that you were playing it, I could see how that could be annoying. I guess the way that they tried to work around that is they have like that kind of radars thing where you can hit left trigger and then there's like it sends out like I guess some type of sonar basically, and then you can kind of find the points that you need to get to that way, but it doesn't help necessarily for backtracking, so it's only good if you're pretty much like straight lining the game. But if you have to go back and do stuff, then yeah, it can be kind of problematic. I can see where having a map would help.
I thought that was only to find save points.
Yeah, basic, but that's how you advance. Like basically you
it's
find
to find any of those like entry holes, to get you to the next area.
Yeah.
Okay. What were you about to say?
Oh, nothing.
Okay. The other thing, well, another thing, and I'm only getting the negatives out the way because I don't really. It's not too much, but like I kind of wish this game had more bangers for music. I kind of felt like it was kind of like I really thought this game could have like some pretty hype like tracks, and like for the most part like the music to me was like non-existent, and like this just seems like a game that should have like a really dope soundtrack.
I feel like it. I can see
ambient
what you mean.
music. It's
yeah,
ambient
right.
music.
It fits the mood, right? Like it comes in when it needs to, for the most part, and that's it. But it's not like, there's not bangers or anything. But it does the job, and I guess the game's not long and like isn't so long that it overstays its welcome. So it's like, nothing sticks out. Like I couldn't tell you like favorite songs.
Yeah, I can't tell you any single track in this
but
game.
I felt like it was good for the most part, but just not amazing. Nothing standoutish,
Did anything stand out to you, Trevor, or were you?
Not really.
I'm not saying it needs to be like Hotline Miami or anything like that, but just like I felt like we could have had like some, I don't know, like metal or like some type of like industrial music, or I don't know. It just was like. It's just like, oh man, like they could have like really brought this game over the top with some really, really good music.
Even at the end, I think it would have been really good if they had like a banger at the end, right? Like through that whole sequence, that would have been kind of good.
Yeah.
It's
Or
just like
even-
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, even through the like there are some cutscenes that you kind of play through,
Yeah,
like the flashbacks or whatever.
Yeah. That brings me to another one. I like that this game isn't like, for lack of a better word, it's not like super story heavy, but like I didn't really care for a lot of the I guess the flashback sequences, like where you're playing as, I guess, maybe not flashback, I think it's like a flash forward where it seems like an investigator is trying to figure out what happened at this facility. And so like presumably at this point your the monster has escaped the facility, and so you see this guy, you're controlling this guy, and you and a couple of people are like looking around the facility and like looking for evidence and just seeing what went on. And I don't like, I didn't need it, like it doesn't like detract from the game, but I was just kind of like, this seems kind of out of place or unnecessary.
I mean, is it a flash forward or is it a flashback? Because based on how that ended, I'm kind of confused as to what it is. But
I think and when I said flashback earlier, I was doing that with like air quotes, because I do think it's a flash forward, and you're playing, like while you're playing as the monster, you're playing the flashback, because it kind of tells a story of like this lab where the monster was created has already been destroyed, and everything has already been breached.
Okay, all right, yeah, I follow you.
And so that guy's going down and investigating, and then he actually gets infected with it, and that's when you get that final ability to like manifest
Parasitism, or something like that. Yeah,
and then that's how he's able to escape.
That makes sense.
How did you feel about that, Dante? The sequences where you're playing as the human, and
they were not great, in my opinion. Like, it just... I get why they were there, and this game needed some exposition.
It needed it, though?
I think, yes. Like, I would have liked to know why I was a giant worm destroying everything.
Mm-hmm.
But that guy could have been a lot better to play. Like, he literally played like an afterthought.
Yeah, I mean, like that's kind of how those sequences seem to me. I don't necessarily think that there should have been any type of exposition delivered, especially if there was. Like, I'd rather it. I didn't need it displayed that way.
Like, how worse would it have been if there would have just been like maybe a minute cutscene of like them doing some of that stuff versus you actually playing through it all?
Like, I think
Exactly.
it would have been more interesting if you got to see how the monster was created and like why it wanted to escape. But instead, we're seeing, something happened at this facility, and you're like, well, duh, something happened. I'm literally doing this right now, And so it's just kind of like, I don't know. Like, I guess I didn't really understand why we needed to see, like, I guess them having those sequences showcases to you that, I eventually get out. But
and I don't know if it's necessarily a callback to Metroid, but that same kind of storyline happens as far as like you as the protagonist, like you're the one going down and investigating, or at least in Metroid Fusion, you're the one going down and investigating this anomaly, and it ends up like being a parasite, and it inhibits you. So this game being a reverse horror is kind of the flip side of that coin, where you're playing as the contaminant. I don't know. That's just my thinking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that makes sense. Like, one of the things that I have you guys ever seen? Like, I played this game and I was just like, I have feelings about this game, but I don't know I don't know what it is that I like about this. Like, I like the game, but I was like, it's speaking to me and I can't quite put my finger on it. And then I played the DLC, and it like clicked right away, and I was like, I know why I like this game. Have you guys ever watched the movie The Thing?
Yeah.
This is basically like it was like that's one of my favorite movies, and like y'all know me, I hate like scary games, horror games. I hate scary movies, and for whatever reason, like one summer between like semesters in college, I watched the movie The Thing, and it just like it was so tense and like so good. Like I just like everything about it. And this movie, this game perfectly kind of captures like what it would have been like from the point of view of the Thing. So have you? I guess Trevor and Dante, you guys haven't seen The Thing?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Dante? Okay. So it's like this movie came out in the 80s. It's like Kurt Russell's the main character, and there's a young Keith David is in it. But basically, these guys are at this like snow facility, which the DLC takes place. I think it's called The Greatest Time of the Year or something like that, and it takes place at a station. It's more contained than the main game. The main game is super sprawling with the hub world, while the DLC takes place in a contained like fortress or whatever unit, and it's winter time, so there's snow outside, and they have Christmas lights and things hanging up inside the facility. And in The Thing, I think it takes place in Antarctica. They're at some research facility in Antarctica, and something happens. They're trying to figure out something that went on, and there's this parasite that is on the loose, and they don't know about it. But the parasite's ability is it has this ability to take on the form of whatever it's infected. So like they have like huskies or whatever. At one point, the parasite takes on the form of a husky, and they can't distinguish it from the other dogs. Like they don't know. And then at one point, one of the guys goes missing, and they're like, "Holy crap! We need to figure out where this guy is." And then they get everybody into the room, and like you basically like you are putting yourself in more harm's way when you're in smaller groups, so you have to stay in a bigger group. And it is some super freaky special effects in the game. There's super freaky like just like a lot of heightened tensions, and just like, oh crap, like who is the thing? Who is the thing right now? And it's just like a super dope movie. And it made me think of this game, or this game made me think of that movie and my love for that movie. And I was just like, oh, like this is like you're sneaking in like these vents, and you're trying to hide out from these people, and you're biding your time before you attack them. And it gave me that power trip that I was really. I don't know. I didn't agree with Greg when he said like it feels balanced. Like I definitely feel like you feel like super overpowered compared to a lot of the humans in this game. But like I really like the aspect of like when you're in your weaker forms as the creature, you have to like be a little bit more stealthy and more deliberate in how you approach people. But then when you're like more powered up, then it's just like I'm about to go ham and just destroy this entire room. And I really like that dynamic in this game, and I think it like treads the line really definitely. I feel like of like being like super weak and needing to bide your time and plan out something, and then just going like I'm about to go hard and just destroy this entire room. And I love that about this game.
Yeah, there are some other games I wish were more like this, where it's I want to say it was a game that we played recently. I can't think of it, where you basically have more, not necessarily more time, but just more opportunity for planning and to like just kind of pause and assess. And I think this game does a really good job, because you can get into some really bad situations and then be able to like, like you said, escape into a vent or something like that, and then plan your attack and come back out swinging. So.
Did it like I know you're not like a super fan of like stealth games, but like it wasn't too much of that, right? Like
no, you? Definitely. didn't play it as a stealth game at all.
Oh, you just went into a room and just started swinging?
Usually, like, honestly, so like with this gameplay, you know, we haven't really talked about the like how you move as a character.
Yeah, go ahead.
But so like when you're moving, when you use the directional keys, normally like in a 2D game like this, you would have to use left and right and then up to climb, and you could jump and stuff like that. But whenever you use your directional buttons or your stick, you basically like cling to walls and like the closest platform to you without having to jump or anything like that, which is, you know, it feels really good playing the game. And when you attack, there are also objects like around that are destructible, and you can kind of bump into stuff, and when you like brush past a light, a lamp or something like that, you know, you'll break the light bulb. So like all those little details like that in the game are really cool. But when it comes to combat, all those destructibles that are around you are basically objects that you can use to toss at enemies, or even if you like use one of your attacks and you hit an object, it'll bounce off of the enemies and hit them too. So I was using that to my advantage, where I would just kind of go into a room hot and just start swinging at everything, and eventually I would hit an object in the room and that would go flying across and it would hit another enemy, and you can hit one enemy and they would bump into another one and knock them down and give you a chance to get to them before they can start shooting at you. So it's, you know, that part made like whether or not you wanted to play stealthily or just guns blazing, you know, the game really gives you that option.
You just went in swinging.
I really did. Like, if I was... So you also have different attacks based on what level you are. I know Dante mentioned like how you level up in the game. I'm trying to think. I think it was when you're at the second level. You're the medium-sized monster. And you basically, like when you use your attack, it kind of lunges forward. That would be the first thing I did when I entered a room. Because enemies that have guns, they will start shooting immediately, like on sight. And so the sooner I could get to them and knock them down at least, the better chance I had of surviving. So like whenever I entered a room and I see an enemy, whether or not they had a weapon, I would just charge at them.
Yeah, I think for the most part, there's sometimes where like if you go against the enemies, I guess you'd call them like the, I don't know the name, but I guess you'd be like super soldiers or whatever, the dudes that actually had shields and stuff. Like those guys, you would have to kind of plan around, right? Like you couldn't, I guess you could just run up on them if, you know, if you wanted to. But I tried to like always like try and find a way to get, like either try and go under them and get behind them, or like find little ways to do that. But yeah, if they were just regular dudes, I was just going in. Like, might as well.
Yeah, like I definitely I played a little bit more subtle than you guys did. Like I was trying to like study, like not necessarily like their movement, but just try to make it so like if I'm gonna swing a door open, I'm gonna swing a door open and hit two people at the same time. Or like if somebody's walking on a grate above me, or I'm above them, I'll try to either pull the grate out from underneath them or drop the grate on top of them and like make my appearance into a room. And then I also, like, especially rooms with enemies with guns, I would try to use my tentacle and pull them up into the vent with me instead of, going down. So, like, I was more of, like, I definitely felt more like a monster where I'm just, like, you know, these two people are doing their path, and then, you know, they're both facing one direction. I grab the guy in back and just pull him up. And then when the guy turns around, he's like, oh, crap, where's the guy? You know, like... That was my preferred play style, or it's just kind of like picking them off one by one was my preferred method. But then sometimes, like, one of the things that I felt like there was like no... Once you were in a room and you made a sound or whatever, everybody was on high alert. So it wasn't like you could like slowly pick everybody off, especially when you like did anything with grates or the doors. But it still was very satisfying to just be like, I'm going to drop this grate here, and then I'm going to go all the way to the other side and drop a grate here to get this guy to run here, and then I can pick off this guy that's and like I was strategic that way, and it was really fun to play that way. Got to definitely like do like a power fantasy, I guess you could say.
Pretty much be like Riddick.
I was gonna say like Batman in the Arkham series.
Riddick is better. Like basically, where the enemies are looking around like, "Oh man, what happened to John? He got ghosted."
Yeah. What about you, Dante?
I probably did a little bit of column win and
Toy with
swing, but there was the occasional the guys with the shields were kind of bad.
The drones too.
The drones were annoying just because I couldn't really figure out Actually, no, the drones weren't bad. It was the thing that deployed the drones.
The little tank thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like not the tank with the turrets, but the one that literally just deployed drones.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's one other thing I wanted to ask about the playstyle. So, what did you guys do then for when you guys had to fight like the mechs and like the drones and everything? Then you couldn't just go in swinging. Then did you play a little bit more methodical then? When
Yeah,
it was, like,
I guess you
higher
kind of have to,
powered?
right? Like otherwise, you just get mowed down pretty quick.
So what was your guys' approach for mechs? Because with the mechs, it was really cool because sometimes mechs weren't armed. There was nobody in them controlling them, and then sometimes when you alerted the room, people would start running towards the mechs to get in them. And normally with the mechs, they had not body armor, but just armor, and so you had to systematically kind of take parts with the tentacles and rip stuff off before you could actually pull the person out. So I really enjoyed especially that first mech fight. I thought it was just like a mini boss or like a boss fight when you were in I think I wrote the Leviathan Reef base. I really enjoyed that fight, but then when they became a regular enemy, it kind of lost some of its luster, that fight. But I just really enjoyed trying to systematically I did my same play style where it's just I'm going to do some hiding. I'm going to pull off this thing when it has its back to me, and then I'm going to go back into hiding, and then try to bring his attention somewhere else. And then that was my method of dealing with the drone or the mechs, where I still was able to do my normal play style.
Yeah, that's kind of how I had to deal with the mechs for the most part. When I saw if it wasn't manned for the most part, if I could destroy it, I would do it just in hopes that because I didn't know they could get in them, but I guess that was kind of I just assumed when you got into an area they were already in it, but I didn't know if they weren't manned that they could actually just run up to them. And okay, yeah, so I was just taking them out if I saw them and nobody was in it, but yeah, when I ran across the manned ones, you just kind of pick at them a little bit, take one piece off, run away, try and get to a good area to come at them again, take another piece off, run away, and just keep doing that.
What about you people that just go in swinging?
For the most part, whenever you had to face mechs, they put you in an area where you had a lot of cover. So a lot of times I would just try to get underneath the mech, and if there was an opening on the left and right side of them, I would just kind of bounce between those two sides and kind of confuse it so it wouldn't know where I was coming from.
Pretty much what he said. The mechs were not really that big of a threat in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't think they were a threat. It just it was fun to... I think is when enemies started stacking is when it got more interesting, where it was okay, there's a... Because to me, the hardest enemy for me to deal with was the flamethrower guys. Because oftentimes I wouldn't know a dude had a flamethrower until I was on fire. Then I'm like, oh shoot, where's the nearest body of water? And so those ones, those dudes were a pain for me because those flamethrowers had ridiculous range.
Yeah.
And just what would happen a lot of times is it just so happened that the dude that I picked off first to kind of aggro everybody else was not the right person to aggro, or it wasn't the flamethrower guy. So I'm just thinking like, oh, I took out this guy, I'm good. And then it's like, oh no, the flamethrower guy is still in the room. Crap, I took out the wrong person first. Those dudes were a pain for me. I think that was my least favorite. Not that I didn't think they were unfair or anything like that, but they just gave me the most trouble. It was the flamethrower guys.
Yeah, pretty annoying.
Did you guys have like a, I don't like seeing this person?
I didn't like the mechs. I thought they
really?
Yeah, well, not that they were hard. It was just like, man, if I mess up, like, you got to get out there pretty quick, you know?
I mean, they do light you up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think for me it was the shield guys, because I don't think the level of precision in this game is good. So
yeah.
Those were the ones where I would basically have to go in swinging on them before they can even drop their shields.
Put up their shield, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was satisfying later on in the game when you could do parasitism. I don't know how to say it. Is it parasitism? Parasitism? And being able to just unload as a human on a dude with a shield. It was so satisfying. It was just like, I hate you, and just shoot up the shield. Shoot up the shield. Did you guys have a... so, we I guess...
I think my least favorite enemies were actually the drones.
Which ones? Because there was...
Not the, like, square ones or the cube ones.
You didn't like the ones that could shoot the helicopter drones. Yeah, I didn't like
drones.
those either.
Those were just annoying most times.
I usually, so my strategy with the regular drones was, as soon as they were released from their bay, I would throw a tentacle and just start like trying to grab it and then slamming it, against the wall.
Yeah.
But then go ahead.
I think for those, it's very dependent on which level monster you are at the time, like how you have to deal with those.
Why you say that?
Because I felt like it was a lot easier for me to deal with them when I was at level 1, of course, which is the most dangerous. But I don't know, it just seemed like the other levels where you were too big of a target and you didn't have like it wasn't necessarily a ranged attack, but you could like kind of shoot them with the it was like a web type thing, a web type attack.
Yeah, to kind of stick them in place, like the Spider-Man kind of.
And that was my strategy for trying to take out the drones, the helicopter drones.
So my strategy was that worked, but like I usually did the level 3, like I would do the little spears, or when I was level 2, the little javelin things. So normally, if I was level 3, I wasn't level 3 for long because I was going to get lit up. So normally in level 2, I would do the one where you got like the porcupine, where you have all the spikes around you, and I would just roll into them to kill them. And that was pretty effective. And I also tried to position myself in a way where I was in like a tight corridor or something, so that I wouldn't be fighting them from all angles. They'd have to come at me from one direction, and it made it a little bit easier to manage for me. Well, those were your least favorite too, right, Dante? Over the shield dudes?
Which ones?
The little like helicopter drones.
I don't think it was the drones itself. Like, it was whatever was deploying the drones.
Oh, weird.
Because for whatever reason, that thing died.
Gotcha. So, I guess I realized that we have been talking about enemies and stuff, and we didn't necessarily talk about like your abilities and things like that, like kind of how you combated everything you came across. So, as kind of what Trevor said, like when you are playing this creature, like you're essentially, it feels like you're floating. Like your tentacles are gripping onto walls and everything, so you're never necessarily on the ground. You're just like, if you're holding up, there's not a jump button or anything like that. You're just clinging on to whatever you are trying to get around, or however you're trying to maneuver the environment. And as you get further and further the game, you're getting story based like powers and just like more abilities at your disposal, like any Metroidvania. So I think the first one you get is like I think the cobweb ability or what Trevor said, which was basically like Spider-Man, where he does like the quick like wrist flip and then he can kind of stick something to the wall or so you get that ability, and it's kind of like a good range. Not I wouldn't even say it's an attack because it doesn't do damage, but it prevents things from moving around. So that was your first ability, and then I think you get Zephoria. Is how I say it?
Yeah, it looks right.
And that was the which ability was that?
That's where you like create blades.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, yeah. And then you get that's the one where I was talking about, where it's like you're get like a porcupine basically ability, and then I think later on you get the ability to level up, and basically how you level up in this game is either you take out and eat a lot of humans, or you just find little save points that give you more power, I guess you could say. I don't really know, but you can also use them to replenish your power as well. And so your level 1 abilities, when it's all said and done, are you get the cobweb ability, you get that blade ability, and you get invisibility. And then at level 2, then you get Zephoria is the one that's you shoot the blades out, right? In a direction.
Yeah, where you can like damage structures and things.
Yeah, and then because in level 2 you get the spiky thorns, which is like you're like a porcupine, and like you become like a ball with spikes sticking out of you, and you can roll around. And then what else do you get at level 2? You also get the ability when you're in water to be tiny worms to kind of better traverse like the level and just get around obstacles and everything. And I guess one of the things that we didn't discuss either, and one of the things that I really do like about this game, and I think it comes with the territory just being a Metroidvania, so I guess it could go without saying, but I feel like it's worth mentioning, is that all these abilities are useful in and out of combat, which I really did appreciate. So like some of the abilities you use to further unlock parts of the level to just get further in your exploration, and even like some of the containment units that you have. I feel like that's where a lot of the serious, I won't say serious, but that's where some of the more difficult puzzling lies. And I don't want to say difficult like they're too hard, but like I feel like do you agree, Trevor, that the containment units were where they really, I felt like, tried to make like harder puzzles?
Yeah, they were, I guess, more so like supposed to be the collectibles of the game.
Yeah, and I didn't necessarily feel like they were. It wasn't like we were playing Baba Is You.
Yeah, yeah, they weren't too difficult. Like if you sat there for a second, you could be like, "Oh, that's what they want me to do."
Yeah, but I did feel like they were like, okay, you have these abilities, or the presumption is you can't get this until you can't get to this containment unit until you have this ability, and then they're like, we're going to show you some interesting ways, because like I think one of the containment units, I didn't know that you could use the cobweb to recharge your power.
Oh yeah, that one.
I didn't know that.
I think that was the only one I ever had to look up a video for, because there, in some of those, you use your abilities in ways where you wouldn't even use them in any other situation.
You wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you guys remember those little like electricity power units that you could use to recharge for the ability, the one that has the bar?
Oh, the power.
Yeah.
Conduit.
So you could use the. There was a puzzle where you had to do it. It was a containment unit one where you're basically having to go through laser lights, but you have to use the invisibility. And if you get detected, then it starts the whole puzzle over again. And they have a power unit in the middle of the room, and you have to use at specific areas around the outside, which is where you're traveling. You had to use your cobweb ability or whatever in order to latch
yeah,
onto
I did that one.
Okay, yeah, I had no idea that was even a thing you could do until that one. And like there was some cool things like that, and that was one of the other things I wanted to bring up with the DLC is that they require you to use your powers in some interesting ways that they don't do in the main game. So like that was another bonus thing about the DLC was beyond it being a smaller contained unit, so like the map thing wasn't an issue, is they also had some cool ways for you to use your abilities. And there was like another thing too where it's like I didn't know you could use the parasitism on dead enemies until like you know, like it didn't occur to me that you could even do that, and then when I found out you could, it was like, oh cool, like this is awesome. So yeah. And then level 3 had level 2 also had one so it had the tiny worms when you're in water to make it easier to traverse. You had the spiky thorn attack. You had like a charge attack. I don't really know how to describe it. Like it was like a attack where you could like get your mass into a ball and then do like a big charge attack. And then level 3, which was the final level, they had an armor ability. It had a even more ridiculous javelin ability where it shot all these hooks at things in a specific direction you determined, and you could pull things back to you. And one of my I really liked as the game progressed, and like, you know, you're playing and they have those little sections where it's like, oh, like you can de-level your character in order to do this thing, and I really liked that aspect of the game. I did not like controlling the character at the 3rd level. It was so difficult to do when you're just like have all that mass.
Oh yeah, there are some areas where you don't know exactly which portion of the monster you're controlling.
Yeah, like I really like the abilities you get in level 3, but it's just so... It took me a while to get used to controlling the level 1 character when we first played this game. And you lose any sort of fidelity you may thought you have developed when you're in level 3. Because like you said, like you're so spread out as this creature that you're like, say you're going up and you're spread out across the entire screen, and so you say, oh, I'm going to go up and to the right, and then you're like, oh no, I missed, I'm going to go down and to the right now, and now your point of origin or the part you're controlling is the opposite side of the creature. And it was like super difficult to try to... You almost had to... I'm assuming that the way you're supposed to control it is almost like a ship in the water, where instead of doing like those quick twitch things, you kind of have to slowly rotate the joystick around and do a loop, and that's just like not intuitive to me. So controlling that creature in level 3 was not fun at all.
Yeah, I really found it to be an issue in like tight corners, like really small areas where like I was trying to avoid being seen, and part of me just ends up just kind of hanging out over like, you know, at the end of a ledge, and then they spot it. So that was like something, but it only happened. Well, I wouldn't say it only happened a few times. It happened enough, but it wasn't enough to really annoy me, you know. But yeah, it's definitely a little bit, you know, it's an inconvenience, I guess.
Definitely. In the DLC, there's some parts where there's an elevator you have to use, but unlike in the main game, you can't like skip and go up alongside the elevator. You had to get into the elevator as the creature, and it was like there was a couple times where I like got in the elevator as much as I could with the level 3 creature, hit the button, and the next thing I know, like I didn't have enough of the creature in, so then the elevator just goes up, and then my creature, all of it is just brought down back to the bottom, and I'm like, damn, I gotta call this elevator again. And so that part was a little bit frustrating because it was just like, ugh.
Yeah, it's kind of weird in the main game, like when you're using elevators, because for the most part you can kind of go around them.
Yeah, I think it's like for the smaller ones, it makes a little bit more sense
typically they gate you from one end, and you have to solve something to get it out the way, so you know, get around it.
Or maybe they just have multiple solutions. Because I remember, there was one elevator where I intentionally picked up an enemy and carried him all the way over to the elevator just so I could control him to turn on the elevator to move it, like while I was in another area behind it. But then I realized, I could have just gotten on the elevator
and hit the button
myself.
The bigger you are, the harder it is to get your creature in the elevator, though. So because those elevators are tight quarters. And yeah, I guess the last ability you get is the parasitism, which you can do at all levels, which is basically like breaking off a piece of yourself, controlling it, and being able to infect a human and take control of that character. And they do some really cool puzzles in both the main game and in the DLC with that, and just like some cool sequences, even if it's not necessarily like a difficult puzzle. And it was always super satisfying to play a character and just like destroy a room, or like, I'm just shooting everybody, or I have this flamethrower and I'm just lighting everybody up literally, or especially like when you got to control somebody in a mech unit. That was always fun. It was always super satisfying to do that. That was like one of the highlights, I guess I would say, for me, was being able to be in a mech unit. That was really cool. Am I missing anything? You guys got anything else? I feel like we like this game, but I feel like it's just kind of like
No, like I really enjoyed this game. Like thoroughly enjoyed it. I was gonna come on here. If y'all weren't into it, I was gonna come on here like Sway in the morning. Talk your shit, Sway.
It's not that great of a game.
There we go.
It's pretty fun.
It's okay. It's fine. It's like when Greg said 7.6 earlier, I was like, yeah, that's about.
What do you say 7.6 about?
The Metacritic
average rating.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Why do you feel that way?
Honestly, I felt like it went on too long. Apparently, I played longer than you guys did. I don't want to map, but I think since you're in a facility, it would have made sense if they had, I don't know, signs and stuff saying like, hey, this is how to get to this other part of the facility, like just in the background and stuff like that.
Yeah. They only have the exit.
Yeah, I was about to say, I guess that's the only thing they show you is just the exit. That's it.
Yeah, because I completely, there was just a 90-minute stint near the end. And what was a big thing? We didn't really touch on the puzzles, but essentially you have to be at a different monster level to access different monster abilities.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And most of the puzzles revolved around you being at a specific monster ability. And if you weren't at that level, you had to go back to a specific pool of water to either drop off, worm sacks or whatever you want to call them.
Blobs.
Or you could go into crevices and regain them. And, the puzzles were okay. It was just kind of annoying having to... They all kind of follow the same pattern where it's like, oh, well, I need to do this as this guy because I see there's this wall where I'm going to have to shoot the spiderweb through. Or, hey, there's this electric spear thing that's going to explode, so I need to be at level 3 so I can use my shield.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt a little shallow to me. In that.
I'll disagree with you because they do put you in situations where once you do, lower your level, they make you enter areas where you can't backtrack and pick up your, I forget what it's called.
Well, yeah, but then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to have to use whatever this specific power is.
So, well, then after you do that, in order to get through the puzzle, they might put you in a combat scenario where you're forced to use whatever level you're at, rather than being at your highest level. And I think that at some points in the game, it's pretty clever because it forces you to use the invisibility instead of just straight up attacking enemies.
I mean, I'll say I get what you're saying, Dante. You're just kind of saying I wish there was a better way for them to do this thing, right?
Yeah, mostly I wish I didn't have to backtrack, drop off part of me, go back to the puzzle, then potentially go back again, get the upgraded version of me, come back, do the next part of the puzzle.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think what Trevor, what you're saying too, is like it kind of, they sometimes like pepper right as soon as you do that sequence, and you maybe you can or cannot backtrack, and then they immediately throw you in a combat scenario, so then you're forced to be like, oh crap, I was level 3 and now I'm level 1 because I had to do that, and now I have to, like, because like you guys, the way you guys play it is like, I'm gonna go in swinging. Well, you really can't do that at level 1 against certain enemies, where it's just like, okay, it forces you to play the game in a different way in order to, but it may, I guess, to Dante's point too, it may not like feel like it's worth it, or it's just like, I'd rather have just not. It feels like it's what he's saying anyways.
Sorry, repeat that one more time.
Just like what I was saying is that, you know, you de-level your character and you complete some sequence, and now you can't go back. Maybe you're locked out of the spot that you dropped all those creatures off at. So now you're forced to progress or go further at a lower level, and then you immediately... Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I didn't mind playing like at whatever level I was at. It was just a matter of having to backtrack just to do that, knowing that, okay, well, I have to use this ability, and the only way to do that is to backtrack and downgrade. It wasn't like Brothers, where it wasn't like a puzzle, but like it did kind of give me very similar vibes of Brothers, where like, okay, well, it's clearly one of these walls, so I'm clearly gonna have to do this thing.
And y'all just love taking cheap shots at Brothers.
I'm glad we played it just as a reference point.
Yeah. Now we all know what we're talking about when we're talking about some sequels we don't like. We can just say it's like Brothers.
So relatable.
So y'all love Forgotten Anne, okay.
I wasn't here for that.
Yeah.
Man, you missed out.
I'm thinking about going to it.
I want to check out that episode.
Stop. Get some help. That's all I was thinking. I don't know. Do you have any other things that you stood out, Dante? Because I guess I'm guessing that, like, you said the game is fine. How do you feel about it, Greg? Like, do you have any complaints? I know we kind of talked about mine at the top of the show, but do you guys have anything else?
No, not really. I mean, like, I feel like it didn't overstay its welcome for the most part. I felt like there was enough variety. I didn't really get too bored. There were a couple areas where I felt like I got lost a little bit, but they didn't happen very often. Usually that was like after I got back into the, for lack of a better term, like the main area, you know, after you finish off one of the zones and then you go back out. Sometimes I would get lost because I wasn't sure exactly where I needed to go. But that was like really it. But yeah, for the most part, I liked it.
Gotcha. What about you, Trevor? Did you have any? I know you really enjoyed the game, but did you have any complaints or things that you wish were different? Or
I think I pretty much talked about everything that kind of held the game back for me. But it, you know, even with those things, it didn't do enough to, you know, to make me just not like the game.
Well, do you guys have anything else left for the game?
I was gonna say this game was too short, but you told me there's DLC, so okay. Like I said,
I was thinking this game was twice as long as it needed to be. But
I beat this game in one sitting. So
Maybe you're just a pro gamer.
That's what it is.
the best of us. How's Cuphead going for you? How's Hades going for you? Sorry, I'm just being mean now.
I'll get around to those games eventually.
When I feel like it. Play it at your own pace. Well, yeah, I feel like you said there was nothing else you had, Trevor. I would, if I were you, I would recommend the DLC. Then, yeah, like I think it's a little bit different. I mean, it's more of the same game, but it's really cool to play the game in a more constricted area. So you're not dealing with the very beginning of the game with like the scientists are just running away. Like from the jump, you're playing against people with guns and everything, so that you get straight to the combat part sooner. You have all your abilities and everything, and they do some cool things with the parasitism ability as well that I don't think they did in the main game. But yeah, it's cool, and I think it's free. I think when I had looked it up too, I was telling Greg this before, but people were a little disappointed that they were doing this instead of doing a new game. Not a new game like a Carrion 2, but just like they were like, oh, they're coming out with DLC. Crap, that means that they're not working on a new game. So I think that means that people were fans of this game and were excited to see what else they're coming out with. But the article that I'm reading or have up says this announcement was December 30th of 2020. So it's relatively new, but I think that it's only available right now through Steam, or at least when this article was only available. But it's free, so if you buy the game, then it'll come. If you buy the base game, the DLC will come with it. So we have nothing else for Carrion?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so if you were to base a video game off of one villain...
Man, it's kind of rough for me to... Got to think about that.
Do you have one, Dante?
Can think of one.
So, like, I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but like, would this be like, living out your Darth Vader power fantasy or whatever? Like, is that what you mean when you say villain, or like, are you're more leaning towards the monster part?
Point. Like, yeah, there's Vader Immortal for VR, where you totally get to be Vader.
I thought in one of the Battlefields too,
Force Unleashed,
Battlefronts or whatever.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about that when we were talking about games where you like play as like villain or like the. Well, I guess monster.
There's very few of them, but.
But yeah, Force Unleashed was one. I forget about that.
Mass Effect, depending on how you played.
Oh yeah.
And Fable.
Yeah. Elder Scrolls.
I mean, honestly, like if I was to, and maybe it's because it's been just in the public consciousness, I guess, as of late. But like, I think it would have been cool to play like I had a game, but like Godzilla. Like, it'd be cool to play a game as Godzilla, and I definitely played. I think it was called like Godzilla Destroy All Monsters or something like that. And I definitely played the Rampage games growing up, and I always loved those games. So, like, doing something like that I'm here for that. Playing as a giant.
Did anybody play Peter Jackson's King Kong back on the 360?
Unfortunately, I did.
My brother played it. We had it on the original Xbox. We didn't even get the 360 version.
That was my achievement hunting days.
Oh, you didn't even get it when it launched? Because it was a launch game, wasn't it? For
I definitely wasn't spending money on that then.
Think of a good, like, for Marcus, I think, like, Doom would have been a good, or Taskmaster. Like if they had
obviously, yeah, like a Marvel. Actually, that's funny, because I played Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I played Ultimate Alliance as Juggernaut. He was a DLC character, and then when I played Marvel Heroes, Omega or whatever it was, I was playing as Black Panther, but then I was saving up money, and I got enough money to get because I got the Taskmaster one, but then the server shut down. As soon as I got my boy. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't count though, because usually, like, honestly, with those games, like, you don't necessarily like. I want to play a character where I just feel powerful, and like, don't get me wrong, you feel powerful in like those Marvel games, but you're like just it's not the same. It's not the same as like I feel like the spirit of this question.
What about instead of the villain? What about anti-heroes?
Who you got for us?
The one and only Richard B. Riddick.
thought you were going to give us a real answer.
That was a real answer. What are you talking about?
The true brother of villains.
What more do you need?
I guess we could play the Fast and Furious game, and that we'd be anti-heroes in that.
Don't.
We should do
even
that.
Try.
We really should. You know what? If you want to make it a
trying to
bonus
get me to leave
episode, I'll be on there.
So I was gonna posit 2 answers actually. I think Meta Knight would be pretty cool from Kirby. Mm-hmm. And we have gotten to play as him in a couple games recently, but Bowser.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Also fun.
I feel like, yeah, it would be cool to play like an iconic like video game, like I guess. But I mean, like all I can think of are like Nintendo characters, and it's like, well, you can be them in Smash, and that's not the same as like I'd want to play a game based around them or something, you know. Waluigi.
The sun.
Yeah, I was just like, it's kind of.
I mean,
hard
I
to
gave
think
the
about.
best answer, I think, so.
Guy gets his hair did, and he thinks he can just come and say anything he wants.
It's funny because I'm like, I don't even know anybody that like likes that series other than Trevor. Not saying it's bad because I've never seen them, but it's just funny.
You've never seen the movies?
No.
I only watched the first one. What was that? Pitch Black. I only watched that because, like, my friend. This was like whenever it first came out or whatever. My friend rented it or whatever, and I spent the night at his house. But it was like long ago.
It actively made me never want to watch another Vin Diesel movie.
Dang.
Wow.
What, Pitch Black? Are you serious?
Dante doesn't watch the movies anyway, so him saying
okay.
that isn't necessarily like a big dig as he tries to make it sound.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But at the same time, it's like, oh man, if he's only known for like Fast and Furious, I am not missing anything in my life.
He's in classics. The entire Fast and Furious series. Classics.
Are they villains?
They're anti-heroes, I would say.
Okay.
I mean, they do good deeds, but ultimately, like, they are like
For self-gain?
not even for self-gain. Like, I think they were like on the run from the police for their crimes of like smuggling, doing illegal street races. But then at this point, their record is clean because they've helped all these different government agencies and everything. You know how it is.
Pardons all around.
Yeah, exactly. Daddy's got to go to work. Well, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Great game, great experience.
Yeah, I'll say. Well, good game.
You already said it.
Good game, good experience is what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Trevor.
Great game, great experience.
Great game, great experience. Okay. Dante. Great game, great experience.
It's fine.
Fair enough.
Fine game, fine experience.
It's better than last month's game.
I mean,
Is better than the game.
I went out of my way to hurt Marcus right there. I'm sorry.
Best game of 2021 so far.
What game? What game is the best game of 2021?
This one right here.
Huh?
Aside from our bonus games.
Okay.
Hard disagree, but okay. And I say for me, it's a pretty good game, pretty good experience. Yeah, I think really Dante, you're like the only one that like this game is meh, right? You're the only one that's on that.
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm hearing, pretty much.
Okay, well, I think you have the most strict taste anyway, so I think that's fine. I think that's fine.
Oh, really?
I think you do.
Okay, whatever. I'm not going to argue it.
Do you think somebody else does?
I'd say my tastes are pretty in line with. I will say I don't want to go back to the Metacritic, but
Society.
yeah, it's a 7.6.
That's an acceptable, that's an acceptable, like, pretty good.
Like, it's a good game. Like, if you go into Game Informer and you give something a 7.6, it's like, oh man. Well, actually, Game Informer, I take that back because anything below 8 with them. 7.6 overall is pretty good. It is a good game. Would I recommend it?
At $10, I would.
It's fine.
If it's on Game Pass, a bit, yeah, it's a few hours, man. Check it out.
Yeah, I don't regret my time with it.
Yeah.
That's what we should do. Is would you recommend this game? I feel like that's a better benchmark because we've had some games where it's like, maybe I'd recommend this other game instead. I'm not saying for this game, but I know like we did that with Katana Zero, where it was just kind of like,
man, I had to sit and listen through that, where you guys are like, man, maybe if this game was $5.
Oh, that was my brother.
I was like, God dang, I'm being savage.
Yeah, well, we can wrap this up. So, where can people find you at, Trevor?
You can find me on the internet at Lyric Unsung.
I'm gonna ask, are you streaming anything? Define streaming.
No, not currently. No,
Nope.
I've got to find a game worth streaming.
What does define streaming even mean?
I just was like, Trevor's like, well, I mean, I'm playing these things, but
Well, to stream, he would either have to get a capture card for his Switch,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
something that's not on the Switch.
I didn't know if he was streaming Pokemon or anything like that.
No, Pokemon's not really a streamable game for me.
The trading card game or whatever you've been playing.
Like the trading card game, like streaming it.
Yeah,
I don't know if anybody would want to watch me play.
just
People
because you're
love to watch Hearthstone.
I don't have like a lot of decks like most streamers do. Like some streamers have so many cards they can just build a deck to try out and be like, hey, come watch me, play this new deck.
Gotcha.
But I'm not at that level yet.
One day. All right. Well, where can people find you at, Greg?
You can find me on Twitter at Boombox Hero, Facebook the same, and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Magnegro with a 0 at the end instead of O.
Are you streaming anything?
Not right now. Kind of been tied up with other stuff, but I'll be back soon.
Okay. What about you, Dante? Where can people find you at?
People can find me at twitch.tv/awakencloud. I have been streaming quite a bit recently. So right now I'm playing a game called Curse of the Dead, playing a little bit of Crash 4, and also I have VR streams now.
Do you take requests, or is it just like stuff that you're already planning on playing for the VR stuff? For the VR stuff.
Okay. Just stuff I own right now that might expand.
Okay. Has that been fun and getting people watching the VR stuff? Because I would be down. I've never watched a VR stream, so I'd be down to see like I don't think I've even tried a headset on. So just seeing like what you can.
Yeah, I haven't gotten too many viewers for the VR stream. I think the first time I did it. I've only done it twice. But it is a fun experience. It gets me to use the headset, kind of having an excuse. Oh, well, this is something dumb for me to stream. And it actually took me a minute to figure out how to figure out like the ergonomics of streaming that stuff. So like I have to cast the Oculus to the web browser, pick up the web browser in OBS. Then I also have to there's just a lot of logistical stuff that you wouldn't think you have to deal for or account for. But I have it so like left hand side of the screen is the actual VR stuff, and then right hand is like me doing the VR. Yeah.
Let it drop a link or something if you ever play Super Hot.
Yeah, I might do that this week.
Yeah, drop a link. I'll definitely want to check it out just to see. That sounds cool. And you can find me at Twitter and Facebook at Potato Salad. If you like tuning in to Miss Checkpoints to find out about hidden gems, cult classics, and indie games, and share us with your friends, family, and the Not Shitty subreddit communities you're in. Comment on our Facebook page, add us on Twitter, leave us a review, preferably 5 stars on Apple Podcasts so we can appear higher on the leisure category. I think we need to start thinking of our next batch of games too, gentlemen. I started up the second game for March today, and I was thinking about it. I was like, maybe we need to have something in mind for that after that podcast. So maybe come with our list after that, so we can get our next batch of games, so we can keep this show on the road, keep it going. So yeah, be thinking about what you want to play.
Man, it's that time again.
Yeah, it's the most wonderful time of the year, or something. All right.
Until they choose Shenmue when we didn't expect them to choose.
Hey, it worked. It worked for Shenmue, and it worked for Mega Man Battle Network. Suckers. Playing all the best games in the beginning of the year. Well, yeah. Check out Carrion, right, Trevor?
Do it.
All right, and with that, we're Miss Checkpoints, and we're out. Peace.